to Mr. Atkinson to introduce Ms. Richardson on the topic of housing need.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Ms. Richardson. If you could turn your microphone on. Thank you. Just by way of introduction, you are Lisa Richardson and you're principal planner with the strategy and implementation team.
That's correct.
Here at the council. You have a MA in town planning from South Bank University and many years experience of planning here, mostly here at the council. Now, there's some addition problem with the number of years, I understand.
There is. I apologise. There seems to have been a track change not go through. I have 8 years experience in the planning strategy and implementation team at Basildon.
Okay. Yeah. And
the first 4 years of that was as the housing strategy and regeneration officer.
Yeah.
I subsequently became a planner for 1 year, a senior planner for 1 year, and I've been a principal planner for 2 years.
Okay, well that's correct. Yeah, that's what it says in the. Yeah.
In that case, sorry, I have a problem with the document because it says 2 years experience to me.
Oh, I see. Yes, I see what you mean. Yeah, it does say that. Yeah, I understand. So so the 2 years in the second line should be 12. Is that right?
It should be eight years in total. 2 years in my current role.
I'm with you. I see. Yeah. Good. All right.
Apologies for the error of the document.
Excellent. So turning then to your proof, and first at section 4, you deal briefly with the housing land supply position for the council. Yeah?
Yes, that's correct.
And you refer there to the 5-year housing land supply report of June 2023, which is CD 206, which sets out the calculation in full. You don't repeat that, but you state at paragraph 4.3 the 5-year, the housing land supply at Basildon is 1.85 years.
That's correct.
Currently. Okay, that's in the statement of common ground, I understand.
Yes, I understand. That's agreed.
Yeah, and you make the point that it's been accepted by a number of inquiry inspectors recently.
That's correct.
All right. Now, just on that point generally, it's something which I don't think has been addressed in your proof, but one of the aspects of the provision of care home in this case is that the consequence of that, Mr. Tent says, is that it would free up 32 homes, he's estimated, that were previously occupied by the people moving into the care accommodation.
It would free up homes. We consider it would free up the equivalent of 27 dwellings, and that is by applying the method that's set out in planning practice guidance. I've given the reference, paragraph reference there, 63016A.
Which paragraph in your proof?
It's in paragraph, sorry, my proof, it's paragraph 4.5.
Yeah, I see. So you're not miles apart.
We're not significantly apart
from Mr. Tennant on that. Yeah. All right. Then you, in section 5, you deal again quite briefly with affordable housing, and you refer to the South Essex Housing Need Assessment, or SENA, which is CD 4.01. And just can I confirm for the clarity of everybody, that's also known as the 2022 SHMA.
I think it's sometimes being referred to as the SHMA, which was its previous name. It's changed now to SENA.
Yeah, but it's the same document.
It's the same document.
It's the
Turley. It's the most recent update of the Turley document.
Yeah. Very good. And that identifies a need for 521 affordable homes per annum between 2020 and 2040. And you accept in your evidence that at 5.3 that housing delivery, affordable housing delivery, has fallen significantly below this need.
It has. It's set out in paragraph 5.3 of my proof what the delivery's been over a 5-year period.
Yeah.
And in every year it's been significantly short.
Now, in his evidence, Mr. Tennant has provided an update of the affordable housing calculation, which roughly doubles the need. Again, there's reference to that in the statement of common ground, Mr. Tennant's reworking the figures, if you like, and you didn't rebut that analysis. What's your view of the new calculation as undertaken by Mr. Tennant?
I've looked at the calculation, which I think is set out on table 31 of Mr. Tennant's proof.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand where all the figures had come from.
Yeah.
So I couldn't confirm whether we considered it would reach the same level. In particular, I had a concern that it appeared to rely mainly on lettings which took place during the COVID pandemic. And in 2022-2023, we let 485 dwellings to tenants new to social housing. So that is set out in row D4 of the table.
This is Mr. Tennant's proof.
Get this up. Sorry, my apologies. I should have that handy, but
It's table 31.
it's table 31.
Page 87.
So I thought you said page 31.
Yeah.
Oh, table 31 and this page. Because the system seems to be running a little bit slow. Commences on page 87
Yep.
and continues on to page 88. Row D4, there's appears to be an update based on lettings in the 2019 to 2022 period.
Mm-hmm.
I can't agree with that figure.
That's the 270 figure.
The 270 figure. I will acknowledge that during the pandemic, supply reduced due to people's behaviour.
Yeah.
But I would consider in the most recent year, 2022 to 2023, we let 485 dwellings to tenants that were new social housing, which is much more in line with the supply.
Sorry, what was that number you just said?
That was 485.
Okay. Right. Okay, so you have a couple of observations, but you don't spend time in your evidence, do you, challenging the assessment by Mr. Tennant. You accept that there is.
We accept that there is substantial unmet need, and I believe both sides are fully in agreement with that.
Yeah, all right.
And I understand that's been agreed in the statement of common ground.
Yeah, substantial unmet need. All right. Okay, so whilst we're still on the affordable housing, you say your paragraph 5.6, the appellant has not set out proposed size and type mix. I suppose two things. First of all, is that still the case?
I understand that's still the case.
And would you expect necessarily that detail for an outline?
Not at this stage of the outline.
Okay.
So it's simply that's currently what position we would hope to be seeking if this application was to go ahead.
In due course, to use the phrase. All right. Okay, so the main focus of your evidence really is on the specialist housing need for the care home, and you deal with this starting at your section 6. And it's right to say that essentially you rely on in your evidence and defend the SENA 2022 SHMA methodology at CD 4.01.
That's correct.
To identify future need. And the headline is set out in your proof at 6.10 and the table above it at 7.3. 380 bed spaces required in Basildon over the period 2020-2040, which equates to 19 per annum. And just so that we understand this, because there's obviously a difference between yourself and Mr. Tennant about methodology, the SENA methodology is essentially to assume that the same proportion of people aged over 75 will require care bed space in the future, as are shown by the 2011 census as being a need. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's set out in paragraph, predominantly in paragraph 6.7 of my proof.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially it's taken a methodology whereby the probability of any individual person over the age of 75 needing a care home remains consistent with the probability it was in 2011, in 2020, in 2040, as we go on. But if that number grows, so if a larger number of the population are aged over 75, the absolute need increases.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously if the proportion
yes
is
the proportion is
tied
consistent
to the 2011 census, but obviously it's a proportion. So if the population within that cohort grows, then the need will also grow.
That's correct.
Yeah. And the proportion is 3.4%.
Yes, that's correct.
And Mr. Tennant equates that to occupancy-based prevalence rate of 34 in 1,000. Yeah.
Yes.
You understand that?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the central difference between yourself and the approach of Mr. Tennant is he uses a higher prevalence rate, and he explains where that comes from. But his central criticism of the rate you have used, and you've chosen, or the SENA uses, is to say that this bakes in, is the phrase, it bakes in the misalignment between supply and demand. How do you react to that central criticism?
I would say that assumes that there is a misalignment between supply and demand.
You mean currently?
It assumes, yes, currently.
Yeah, and do you not accept that?
We don't accept that in this case, and that's based on the what we've set out in section 7 of my proof. We've been engaging with Essex County Council, who are the upper tier authority for Basildon Borough, on the prevalence and the availability of care home spaces. We understand from them that they do not seek to increase the provision of care homes in Basildon Borough at this time.
When you say this time, what do you mean?
This was based on a report they produced in June 2023, and that's in paragraph 7.2 of my proof.
All right. So, as you say, you address the current supply in section 7, and you refer there, paragraph 1, to the information from Essex County, the Essex market shaping strategy. And what is the gist of that strategy as you understand it?
The general conclusion they had for Basildon is about 86% of care home beds are occupied on at any given point.
Yeah. So
at any given point, we've got around 100 beds vacant and available for any resident seeking to go into a care home.
Yeah.
We have subsequently, it's not in my proof, but we have done some phone surveys and additional spot surveys with them, which have found ranging around 60 at the lower end. That doesn't include a care home, which was completed last month.
Okay, we'll come to the details, but just you talk at 7.1 of the market shaping